Welcome to the Bougie Black Brother Network. Good evening and welcome to Rethink Politics Repo, where we discuss all sorts of political issues and thoughts of what we have living in this political environment and trying to put some perspective on 3 points of view. And I have my two co-hosts with me, and starting with Eric. How you doing, brother?
Good. Yeah, man, just trying to maintain. We got so much politics going on with the tax bill, these Republicans moving things, but you know, just so much going on right now, man. But
just chilling though, right?
But just chilling.
Yeah, fam, and going from
fam's good. Yeah. We're trying to figure out this whole New York trip.
Yup.
Right now, we're about to move, so you know, hopefully by next podcast we got some news.
Excellent.
We're settled in.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Let us know if it's Brooklyn or Harlem.
or Jersey. Or Jersey.
Oops. Jersey.
East Rutherford.
Oops. Yup.
Giant Stadium.
Hashtag Giants are trash.
There you go. Started early.
I mean,
Speaking of Giants of trash, hey, what's going on, Chaz? Hashtag Atlanta won't make the playoffs. Yeah.
hashtag who says I give a fuck about the Falcons? hey, you know what? Just for the record, I didn't support the new stadium.
Oh, you
just
did?
Such a waste of taxpayer money. It looks nice though. I'm not gonna lie.
It looks good though.
It looks
very
amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
It looks better if you win it.
Yeah. What you say when you winning?
They're in the playoff hunt as of this podcast. As of this, and speaking of, you know, New York, real quick, slight tangent. I don't know if I feel bad for Eli. After 3 past seasons of mediocre.
No, don't.
Do you know? Again, political. Is it political? I don't know.
So, I mean, you know, he hasn't been consistent enough. So, you know, let him go down to Jacksonville with his boy. He'll be okay.
Yeah.
Good riddance.
Yeah,
we start from scratch.
We
and
good.
Shit. Yeah. Anyway, this is Rethink Politics, not Rethink Trading fucking Eli. But so I want to start with the current situation with the tax bill.
Yes.
So, what have you been hearing that's been the changes that's really gonna I want to go with both of y'all of how it's gonna affect you personally, because I think there's different things for different people that they're moving around, and then that's that overall that we all gonna get fucked with. But so Chaz, what have you heard that's actually is gonna kind of be affecting you?
In terms of me personally, I'm still trying to figure that part out.
Okay.
With there's income tax, and then obviously how do you tax investment accounts? You know, your 401k, the pre-tax and all that. However, just from I'm thinking about this from a macro perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this done in the 80s. We all know the Reagan tax cuts, and basically what that did is, you know, it didn't trickle down.
Hell no.
So the idea... go ahead.
No, hell no.
Oh, right. So the idea was, you know, taxes were lower, everyone wins. But when they did that, basically taxes were just withheld to the, to the people up top. You can argue in terms of the timing or the recession. So thinking about it now, I'm like, okay, from a macro perspective, what will happen? Are we setting ourselves up for another cyclical type situation where, you know, and then on the other side, looking at the analysis, I'm like, lower tax rate. Are we going to see money come back to the United States? Apple, I think some others, but people who have money in Europe or whatever the case, will they bring their money back in and take advantage of a lower tax rate now? That, you know, more taxes go to the Treasury. You know, could this possibly do what it's supposed to do? I don't know, because I'm still fighting against the trickle down part. We see, you know, people are going to hoard wealth, not spend more money to create
Create more
jobs
jobs.
or
Yeah.
whatever else the spiel is.
So, what about you, E? What have you heard,
Yeah.
actually?
So I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around all the changes. I do know one of the I guess you could say the regulations that they're adding. Um, they're removing, if I remember correctly, there it has to deal with the housing, with
Yeah.
the home mortgage
Yep.
interest. I think that if I remember right, because me and my wife were talking about this actually, because it affects us. When you own your second house, you can no longer deduct your mortgage
Yep.
interest, and that's huge because that has a lot to do with how you get refunds in the first place. Because I do a lot of our taxes in in our home, so that's something that'll definitely hit a lot of people. Homeowners, and then of course, I keep hearing about how a lot of states, just talking about me moving to
Yep.
Jersey, um, they're taxed pretty high already, and now it's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna skyrocket, but it's definitely supposed to increase. So, about to get taxed even more in states like Jersey and New York City. If I remember correctly, it's a lot of Democratic states with higher populations like California. I forget the other state. It wasn't Texas, but one of those neighboring states. Maybe I forget which one. But it's raising taxes in places that I think a lot of people are not realizing exactly how it's gonna affect them. So uh, I mean, Mike. So how does it affect you? Because I'm curious what other areas that's gonna hurt people, especially in the middle class.
So, what I was reading, and I'm trying to keep up as close as possible because what they're doing is they're battling these smaller things. So, one of the things that they kind of took out was the mandate that everyone, so they fuck with Obamacare and took out the mandate so that everybody has to get medical care. So now that's out, and that's going to keep raising prices on when you get your medical care through your job. We still got to have to pay for people without any kind of medical service. So that's going to take another bite out of your check. When you have children, that's going to go up. So the individual child care, that goes up. But all of these deductions, like for charity, they're going to cut that down lower. They were fighting over the interest. So the interest on your home or any property, they was trying to reduce that, but they were fighting on that. But then all of a sudden, I didn't hear any more. So I'm afraid that when they sign it off, we're going to find out that you can't deduct that. So, part of that interest every year, you're able to do that. And then in certain states, I thought you was going to go here, E, if you can actually file for your taxes on your state taxes that you pay for. So you can file that, but they're taking that away and say, nope, you won't be able to do that. So these high interest or high percentage states that has these 12 and 15% taxes, you won't be able to have that taken back out on your federal. So there's a lot of little goddamn things. And from a 37% for the corporate tax to 21, that's a big chunk.
Yeah, it is.
Huge. So to me, I don't think they would bring anything back, but they would probably slowly start establishing something within the United States so they don't have to pay like import tax coming back in. But I don't think they'll say they're bringing those back. I think they'll clearly will hold it as is, but if they want to expand, it's probably easier to expand now because you're at 21%.
Now, let's talk about the argument. So, Republicans are very much for the private sector to a degree, very much, everyone should have a job, be able to take care of themselves. When I think about the argument, why other than partisan reasons, what's the economic argument for lower taxes, and does it work?
So what's the argument for lower taxes for who, though?
That's the question. So do you do it by income bracket? Should you focus on business, small business? Does it make sense that a corporation pays lower taxes than the small business. Those kind of things I'm still struggling with because, why do all this now? Or are they targeting the right things in the tax bill?
Well, okay, so from what I understand, and I'm not any kind of financial accountant or anything, but so the Republicans, their argument is that they're trying to make they're trying to make it simpler, or like simplify and make it easier and less complicated. That's their argument, but that's not exactly what they're doing. They're just trying to change it, and to the point that it's I mean, I don't know if they're doing the tax brackets necessarily. I know that was what Trump was running off of, so he can there's less tax brackets. I think he was arguing to have only like 4, and I think we have maybe 7 right now or something like that, tax brackets. I'm probably a little off there, but so I mean, I think the argument here is that the Democrats, they feel that the wealthy, that 1%, should be the ones that should get taxed more. And then instead, the Republicans are like, no, we don't want it. We don't want it. It's not about taxing the wealthy. You need to keep them wealthy so that they can trickle down and give the money back to the middle class, to the low class, which is what they don't call them, but to the middle class and others. So it's like you keep hearing that trickle down. They just believe that if you feed money, or if you help businesses and you help that 1% that generates the businesses, and then they try to say it helps small businesses because they're businesses, then it just sounds good. But, it doesn't directly help the middle class. It just kind of, we're just crossing our fingers and hope it does something.
Let's go back to earlier this year. Trump is elected. Vice President Mike Pence from Indiana. Trump is anti taking jobs out of the country. United. What is the name of that company?
The one that was going to Texas. I mean, not Texas, to Mexico, right? Yeah.
Mexico.
Carrier?
United Carrier, something like that. So they basically got, I won't say a tax cut, but in corporate welfare, that's basically what I'll call a corporate tax cut of that size. They got incentives, in other words, to keep jobs here, keep the workers here, et cetera, et cetera. They still ended up laying off people and sending jobs to Mexico. So basically, if you have this argument, who's to say that your stockholders will say, hey, we can make higher profits and you can still do the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
So the whole trickle down argument for me is based on what? Because if they don't do it, if they continue the status quo, there's no consequence. I mean, basically, you're being wealthy.
And I think what they're doing is they're sticking with the trickle down, because the Republicans are having conversations with the rich and saying, you know what, I will keep the jobs here if you lower these taxes. You're killing me with these taxes. They're not killing them with taxes. They still, profit has increased throughout the years. So profits of these companies are not being hurt. They're actually saying, I've just found a better way of getting my profits. So if you take the tax bracket and change it, and these companies do a percentage of keeping here, they'll look like heroes by saying, I got 500 jobs and I built it in San Antonio. And it was like, yes, the jobs are coming back. But yet they got labor of like 50,000 people in India and China and Pakistan and all of these. They're not looking at, just because you built 500 jobs, you still got 50,000 people that you're paying overseas. But they're not looking at that. But the philosophy is they're saying that the wealthy can help the economy if you lower our taxes. And the middle class is being squeezed because we're the ones that really sustaining the United States. We're the one who make these purchases of these merchandise and everything that's being made. We're the one who's going to these restaurants and paying for the food, because we frequent that enough where the people that's under the middle class can barely get out and do that. So they're almost seasonal. They'll do something maybe here and there, where the middle class has a consistent buying strategy, because we're the one with the consistent money. But if you fool us, we're going to consistently just spend our money. So with these taxes, I'm gonna go back with what you were saying. They were saying it's just too much different type of tax brackets that you got to deal with, and if you got to deal with it, let's just eliminate so many and go from there. But that's not what they did, though.
Now,
Right.
and again, I love this is where history is so important. So in terms of just listening to the business community, there's always context. Kind of like what you're saying. It's like, well, who's being squeezed? What's their agenda? Where are they coming from? So
Right.
just let's go back to the recession, the Great Recession. Wall Street makes a gamble. I think a lot of people seen The Big Short. In other words, the housing market crashed, bailout, and then the TARP and all that fun stuff. And of course, Congress does the grilling thing.
Yeah.
There's the guy Jamie something, the guy from Chase Bank, the CEO. Blankenship, I think he's the guy from Wells Fargo, and the other one. But just all these bank CEOs, and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" And blah blah blah, and we need a bailout, help the economy and this and that.
Yeah.
And
Bullshit.
at the same time, kicking people out their homes. Then you have a government program, a subsidy to help that. And then when it's all said and done, it's like, so when you listen to the business community saying we need X, Y, and Z, it's like, who's saying what and why? Because obviously the Wall Street, really, the bank CEOs are just, they're basically like, well, we took a gamble and then end up that well, and we need money. And so it's kind of like, okay, we paid you. What about my house? Oh well, we own the house. And we're gonna have a program so I can buy it back? No, you can rent it. So wait a minute, you mean to pay? As taxpayers, you take people's homes that you're able to take my home because we funded you. So it's kind of like, who's to say that this isn't just kind of the same thing from the other side?
Yeah, I don't think there's any evidence at all that even that businesses and the 1% is what's keeping this country afloat. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of evidence that the middle class has been sustaining and moving this country for decades. So I feel they're using the argument of the recession back in 2007, the bailing outs, and they've been holding on to that for these past couple of years. It's an excuse that these businesses can use to say that, we're getting taxed and we don't want that to happen again, and yada, yada, yada. We need money and, help us out. It's pretty much what I'd like to call just bullshit, that they're just trying to find ways to get in as much money as they can, because this is a huge opportunity that Republicans are trying to take advantage of. So they're trying to get... First of all, they're trying to get a win, because you have to keep, because your president is Trump, and that's what he cares about. So, and they obviously have the majority, so they can easily pass it if they can get everyone on board. And that's been the whole story the past couple of weeks, getting Susan Collins and getting, I forget that guy's name that was talking shit to Trump, Corker, and he ended up switching, which everyone's wondering what the hell happened behind the scenes, but
So something had to happen for him to fall back.
Yeah, I just heard something this morning of what it might have been. I think a lot of it had to do with the Obamacare. I know Susan Collins was part of that too, but he was against Obamacare. Not just Obamacare, but how it was being spent, how there was that mandate that kept it running. And I think there were certain pieces of this tax plan, that bits and pieces that these Republicans wanted in order for them to make it a yes vote, and it just kind of just makes you just disgusted,
cringe,
cringe, disgusted, just disappointed. It's embarrassing in some ways, but I don't know how much people are paying attention, So it's just this is terrible in a sense, because this changes everyone's taxes. This is a mandatory deal where if you want to live in this country, you got to deal with this, and
you got to make enough money to sustain you, because what you used to be able to get, you won't be able to get it, because one of the other ones is the actual, what is it, the school, I mean the student loan interest, medical expenses, and credit for adoption expenses. So they're changing that, you know, but they putting cap on it now. So they're telling people, hey, look, if y'all need to kind of do what you need to do right now before this goes into effect, you'll save more money by either paying it off or doing what you need to do with your accountant now. By the time it kicks in for next year, you'll have a lower deduction and you'll have less money. And the thing is, we're in a country that people are waiting to be told this is good for you, as opposed to reading and finding out what is and what isn't.
I mean, you know, I will say Mike has turned me. You know, if you listen to the other podcasts, do a quick plug for M3, Millennial Money Management.
M3.
Yeah, I always mention. What was the episode? What's the pyramid? Hierarchy of needs.
Yeah. Yep.
He was like, well, people don't know that. Another episode, I was like, you know, what about this? Like, use another word. And I was like, So there's very much a distrust of people, people being understanding, and unfortunately, I kind of joined in that thought process.
Did you?
Yeah, I was just, you know, I had a Lyft ride today, right? And then I think Lyft just picked it like the algorithm or whatever was just weird. And dude was on the interstate. And I was like, oh, well, if you just hop on and take the streetway, be fine. Dude never took the streetway.
Wow.
5 minutes turned to 15 minutes. And I was like, by the time I cancel, try to get another one, it's going to be the same thing. And I was just like, and it was just those kind of moments where it's like, if this motherfucker can't navigate through the streets,
just wait till you get in the car.
How can I depend on you to know the time? You know what I'm saying? It was just
what's going on, right?
And again, he probably just I'm exaggerating. He could have missed his the exit.
It was
traffic. You know, lots of things. But from where the dot said he was on the map, and if I was driving, you know, I could have been there faster than I think, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things where, to your point, people are going to say, you know, I need a celebrity to let me know.
Yeah. I need someone that I can look to that's above me to tell me what's right and what's
Justin
wrong.
Bieber.
Yeah.
The Biebs.
The Biebs will tell you.
Nicki Minaj.
You know, sometimes I wonder how much people even know about taxes in general. I mean, you got these companies that do the taxes for you. Some people have accountants that do it for them because maybe once they have a kid or a second kid or a business on the side, you know, I'm one of those people that I do my own taxes.
Ooh.
You know, yeah. It's actually worked out because I a couple years ago when we first had our baby, you know, and then you can take advantage of child credit, you know, child care credret. We wanted to, you know, I wanted to get it right, you know, so we went through. We I forget the name of the companies. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Jackson Hewitt.
No, not that one. The one with the green and then it used
H&R
to have the white dude. Yeah, H&R Block. There it is.
There you go.
I went to them. It was a woman in Maryland. She was running through our numbers. I'm talking me and my wife sitting down and she's going through all our numbers, our records and everything. And then she was saying, I looked at everything and it looks like you're going to have to owe a lot. And look at this number. And she writes down numbers and has a calculator out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, they do a free consultation. So then I sat down after that because we were kind of pissed that I'm not trying to pay any money,
Right.
you know. I ran the numbers, and I actually have a business on the side doing side projects or whatever. And I ran some numbers, and then I ended up going into positive. So it hit me then, and it was like, wait a minute, and don't worry, I didn't get, you know, fined or feed or anything. It was just I know my shit better than they do,
Right.
you know. So I know how much I put into that charity, you know, for goodwill, which you can, you know, write off.
Yep.
You know, obviously your mortgage interest and things like that you can write off. How how much taxes I pay, which is quarterly taxes that I do for my side business.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly by the cent how much I put in. I mean, there's other stuff that how you can increase your refund.
Mm-hmm.
So I when I realized that, it hit me, and as I was doing research, how the taxes originally was created so that it rewards you to make sure you have a job. This is how the government, I think, this is probably my
Go ahead.
theory, but the government, and when it comes to taxes, they reward you for one having a job. You need to have a job, and that helps your taxes in a lot of ways. That's of course how you get your refunds. That's how you can pay the government. Yada yada yada. That's how all that stuff is integrated because jobs is
Mm-hmm.
everything, right? At least it's
Mm-hmm.
what the country
Yep.
does. And then you have they want you to invest in their country, so of course you need to buy a house. And when you buy a house, that's how they also reward you. That's how you get a refund. That's how you put money into your county, your local area, your state. That's where that money gets put in because you're investing in that area. And then, of course, they want you to have well, let me start. You want to get married. And when you have married, you can file in certain ways, whether it's jointly or single. And you get dinged when you do it single versus jointly, or what's the other one's single joint? I don't
Head of
know.
household.
Yeah,
Yeah.
head of household. Yeah, there's a whole. Yeah, there's different
Yes.
ways of
Yep.
doing it that you could. Yeah, and then the other is, of course, they want you to have kids.
Of
You have a
course.
kid, and then that's how you get your refund. There's like, and then of course the probably the bigger one is if you
Yep.
have a business. And then those are the key points that how they take it. Well, they can take advantage of you, but that's what the government wants you to do in order for you to succeed or to take advantage of taxes in general. And that's what people, I don't know if everyone knows that, because you could take, I don't want to say you should have a kid in order to have taxes, but you'd be surprised that some people do that. But that's another topic. So that's kind of the way I've always seen taxes. But what they're doing now is all those things that have helped people, child care credit. I think you were mentioning the adoption credit too that they're
Yep.
taking away, and then on top of that, now they're taking away the deduction for mortgage interest on your second home. And then I mean, I haven't even said anything about how you can't deduct your state tax refund from the previous year that Mike just mentioned. They're taking away certain things that actually helped us, which is things that people probably don't even realize
They
that
do it naturally. Yeah.
I don't just this is kind of stuff that bores people, but this is what it is, and then I'm the nerd that does my taxes, but a lot of people don't sit down and look at the numbers and look at
Because
all
it's not
that.
sexy. Taxes aren't sexy.
It's
Me,
not.
me,
Now,
We talked
yeah.
about
me and
this in
Chaz
our
always
first
we was saying, how do we
our early-
make money sexy? It's just not popping. Yo, they don't say that out in the street. How you make money with your taxes or things and that. So
Yeah, like yo, yeah. I mean, well, see, here's the thing. So I'm like, yo, so one of my boys, right? He's renting an apartment, and and that's fine. You can rent an apartment, and that's cool. But it's just like, yo, like you saved up. How? Let's talk about buying a home. I know this is a deep conversation that I'm having with my boy over drinks, but it's like, you could save money because you over here complaining about the money. You could let's talk about you could buy a home and then look on Zillow and you could do this and then you can get money back with your taxes and all that. And then he's kind of wavering because there's a lot of other responsibilities when you're a homeowner. And then I'm like, you've been in this apartment for like 6 years, like
What?
I'm like, hey, why don't you go ahead? Well, yeah, but you're giving money to someone else, so
Yeah.
it's like you can actually be investing in something, and hell, you can even sell it with 2 years and then get somewhere else, and you could profit, if you're doing it the right way. And I don't know, man. It's just there's different ways of how you can handle your taxes, or you can handle just your money.
You
but
know,
now we're
it's-
talking about M3 right now, so yeah.
No,
It's relative, yeah.
no. This is the same thing because it's
Yeah.
just in terms of understanding the politics and just how politics impacts your life. So in this particular example, politics impacts, housing, your money at the end of the year,
Yep.
just life planning really. Because if you're not sure about your, if you're gonna have a refund, that can some people use that to pay off
Right.
credit cards or whatever. So I've been thinking about in terms of what are ways to kind of jolt people And really, the only way is public shame. I know it sounds terrible. It sounds
That's
terrible.
not the only way.
Well, hear me out.
That is one of
Go
the
ahead.
ways.
Go ahead. Let me see
Hear
your
me out.
hypothesis on this shit. Go ahead.
Here's my hypothesis. I've been thinking about high school, grade school, whatever you want to call it. And when you get roasted, that sticks with you.
Yeah.
Now, usually it's about dumb stuff like your outfit, like oh you're dirty, this and
Oh,
that.
you got an afro with a chin strap.
We all know the jokes. And some now, obviously, and I don't want to make light because some parents, the moms and dads out there, some of your kids get bullied, and I know some of that really, some of the kids are bullied very, to the extreme side. I'm not condoning that, but I guess what I'm saying is, if you just have like a sign in the neighborhood of like, here are the people who don't know shit about taxes. I think that can,
Actually, I have a theory on that, by the way.
Go ahead.
Well, all right. So, I mean, I hate to transition to one of our other topics, but that's actually a theory that's been practiced when it comes to voting, where they actually, I forget which state or county it might have been, in order to get people to vote, they sent out, oh, you know what? I think it was the Republican primary, and I think Ted Cruz did it in a certain area in Texas. They sent out information to certain counties or certain cities or neighborhoods, I'm not sure, and they said how often your neighbor voted.
Exactly. Snitching.
Yeah.
Straight snitching.
So because that's public information, you can find out,
is.
who's voted and who they voted, And what they did is they said your neighbor, I don't know if it was the reverse or what, but they said your neighbor voted, but you haven't.
But your ass didn't.
Yeah. Here's your polling station, so you can be like your neighborhood or something like that.
That's not good enough.
Yeah.
Because
or you can
that's
do the
not
opposite.
the public shame.
Yeah, but you can do the opposite. Right. Well, it
Your
depends.
neighbor ain't shit. Here's why.
Nobody in your neighborhood voted, and I don't know if nobody voted. All right, so your neighbor didn't vote, and homeboy over here didn't vote across the street, and you haven't voted. Then it's
Y'all ain't
like,
shit.
oh, well,
Yeah.
all right, I guess we're not voting. Nobody's voting. I don't know. That doesn't make me vote. It's kind of the other way. It's more like, if they didn't vote, then I need to tell them to vote.
Right.
Is that kind of what
Nah,
you're?
No,
he wants to shame their ass.
I'm going straight roasting.
He's going straight Game of Thrones shame.
What you mean? What do you?
So
Game
it's
of-
got to be. So there's a part in Game of Thrones where they strip the queen down and she has to walk through the city with her clothes off, and they just throwing shit at her, and all they saying is like shame, and she got to walk through the whole town.
Look, relax. It's not that deep. I am saying, bring back some of the jokes from high school. Like, oh, look at your non-voting ass, or this would be like, we increase your taxes. You can't talk
You
shit.
can't because you didn't vote. Yeah,
true.
you
Exactly.
deserve what you get. But
Yeah, so I wanna here's what I wanna do. So for your street, you can mail like highly targeted like things like that to your street and be like, it has like you and your neighbors in it, and be like people who voted versus who didn't. Like house so and so, bums. House so and so, bums.
Now, are you a politician saying that? Or?
So now you're going with the Trump strategy of saying, I don't give a damn about people. I'm just going to call them out.
Yes,
I
the
see
voters.
That. Oh, I don't think that's good, bro. I just
Yeah.
Look, okay, let's talk about it then.
Okay.
How do you increase the participation rate?
So I think part of what's going on now is the participation rate, because they're finding out when you don't participate, this is what happens. You get buffoons and idiots and oligarchies in charge that doesn't care about your interests, and you're listening to it. But then when it comes back and said, now you don't have any health care. Well, now your taxes is going to be raised. Hey, wait a minute. You won't be able to put these deductions with this house that you're struggling to hold on to. And now you're going to be missing about $3,000 that you can't deduct. That's going to take money out of your pocket. So all of these things is shaming people who voted for Trump because they was like, this guy was a liar. Yeah, we told y'all that in the first place. But now they're saying, how do I not run into that again? You're not going to get 100% of the people. So, I mean, just give that up. But what you want is a percentage to say, this is going to be a change. I mean, you sent that email. I mean, you know, that article that the person, by one vote, it changed the Virginia Congress, right? One vote, one freaking vote. And that's when you be telling people your vote counts. My vote don't mean a goddamn thing. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
You know what? You know what's funny? Because see, that kind of happened in Alabama. You know, not to switch topics entirely, but you know,
now we're going to vote in there.
Yeah, because honestly, like, I mean, I'm not gonna say 100%, but you could say damn near 90% of the black people in Alabama, you know, came out to vote. You know, and they voted for that. You know, they were just basically, you know, hey, you want this pedophile, you know, in office, or do you want
racist pedophile?
Yeah, or do you want a guy that just, and Doug Jones, that, you know, first of all, he's not a pedophile, but at least he's for most of your views. You don't have to entirely agree with him.
He's on the positive side.
Right. I mean, you can look, you know, somebody that's on your team, or you can look for somebody that's just right, you know, right versus wrong. But I think what happened there is you have, first of all, it's Alabama, and no Democrat ever wins that state. You know.
Yeah, well,
hold on.
Let's not forget, Alabama is that election is an outlier, and you know, we have the past. We have the bombings of the church, and this, you know, Roy Moore. I think to people, especially, I can imagine older voters, older black voters. I was like, if we let him in, I mean, is this going to segue to Jim Crow? Is it going to segue into more voting suppression? You know,
but he quoted saying the good old days was when we had slavery.
Exactly.
I mean, he was quoted as saying that.
Yeah. So I think they had to come out. They just had to. Well, you know, just say. You know.
No, they didn't have to. I mean, I think I think this is one of the arguments that we have, that you think people really knows what's best. They had to put an army of people to come down there and say, you know what, black people, if y'all don't do something about this, you will have slavery. This will happen. Remember, back to your point of shaming them. He's like, for shame for you black people. You're so stupid. Now we all gonna be slaves in Alabama again because y'all not voting. Freaking 90% came out. They were like, damn, I don't want to be no slave. What the fuck? You should have known that from the beginning. And you know, you still got a couple of them who said, I'm still not gonna vote for Roy Moore. There was a percentage of, I think it was 30,000 people who had write-ins. That was the difference. I mean, 20,000. That was the difference between him winning.
You know, you make it sound like they missed a flight or something. Now we gotta be slaves.
Now we gotta be slaves.
Nice going, Steve.
I don't know, man. I kind of got a different opinion about Alabama and what happened.
Okay,
go ahead.
What do you think?
I think we're all looking at it wrong. I think there's a problem. Now I'm going a little bit off on the votes itself, but more about just moral values. I think there's a problem with white people because that's what it is. The race right now. It was pretty obvious when you look at the exit polls.
Yeah.
The majority, women and male, were voting for Roy Moore. Like, the majority of them were. And in history, there was the most minorities that voted ever in Alabama. I don't want to say ever, because it might have been centuries. I don't know how it works. But, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, to me, it was so obvious. To the majority of the country, it's so obvious what was wrong with him. In general, like, you know, forget just the policies, just the way he was thinking, just his personal life and issues that he had. And yet the majority in that area, in that state, was voting for him, you know? And it's like, forget that black people, or, you know, I think they were saying black women were the highest percentage that voted for him. Not in general, but just the highest in that category that voted against Roy Moore.
Easy for you
so
to say.
So I'm trying to understand. I think the problem is, why aren't white people talking to other white people and fixing their problem? Like,
Shame.
yes,
There's
shame,
no-
but they're not hearing the shame.
Yeah.
Like, how do you create that shame?
So
They don't think anything's wrong with that.
But
They
I think
they're
it's
just
the
wrong.
reverse shame, because those white people who's voting for Roy Moore is telling them, the other whites who's saying, wait a minute, you trying to tell me you're not going to vote for this guy? He's a white man who's going with our values. And the other white people says, that's not my value. And they was like, what's wrong with you? So it's a battle between their own morality within that race, which is crazy, because the 22,000 who didn't vote for Roy Moore most likely were white, and they had a moral stance that said, I can't vote for a Democrat, but there's no way in hell I'm going to vote for this guy. But
Yeah, but that wasn't the majority.
But the majority was saying, stay out of our business. Alabama politics is our own. They ain't got nothing to do with nobody else. So you saying your politics is okay with this guy chasing young girls at the mall, and
They didn't care about that.
They
They
didn't
thought it was a lie.
yeah.
They,
So it didn't
They thought
matter.
it was fake news.
But why would a mall lie?
Yeah.
How do you create records from the 80s? Like,
And say,
dude is
yep.
wild and get your ass
If
out
you
of here.
see him, get his ass out of here, because he's trying to
Yeah.
grab ass young girls.
Fake news.
No,
Yeah.
we don't want to believe that. But but this is what took the cake. I'm not sure if you heard this. There was a guy who was sitting there and said, back in the day, we used to think that if a young girl was hit on by a state's attorney or whatever, it was an honor, it was a privilege. And you saw the people like, oh shit, is he really saying this? And then he said, my grandmother got married when she was 14. So, this is tradition. Why is this any different? And I'm like, they really believe this.
Yeah.
They're not making excuses. This is a belief.
So to your point, it's kind of like, how do you shame or change the behavior? For that one, it's like, I don't know. The pastor got to do. I guess you hit him with the God stuff. The pastor got to do a sermon like, hey, 14 is not cool. Jesus said
Jesus
it.
didn't marry no young girls. Neither did his disciples.
Yeah, you probably got to hit him from the evangelical and be like, from that perspective,
And
I imagine.
kind of sensitive, but we're gonna turn that. I think it was the the congressman from Kentucky that committed suicide. He used to be,
that was last week,
he
right?
previously was a preacher, and then from a preacher he became into politics, and then they went back and found out what he did, and he was like, yo, if they find out everything I did.
That's fair. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because that's on the other side of shame, where he felt he couldn't handle. I can only speak for, I don't know, but he felt that the judgment was probably too much
it was
to bear.
overwhelming.
So he took his life. So again, that's kind of like what I was saying about, I know parents kind of who have kids who get bullied. They probably can relate to that in terms of. It's that's the other side of it, and I'm not arguing that, but voting, some dude being like, my grandma got married when she was a teen, is like, bruh, that's
Your grandma 90 years old,
I'm not
dude.
saying,
What the fuck?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not, on one hand, I'm not saying if you get caught up for some shit, I'm not condoning you off yourself, but on the other hand, if you a voter, don't make speeches saying your grandma's got married when she was 14.
So I think you brought something up that I really want to segue into, which is, and if you can go as far back as you can with presidents or Congress people or whatever, it's the morality issue. I don't think we've seen so much immorality or just this blatant, disregard of morals and ethics out of so many people. There was ethics investigation in Congress for people who just took money or small things. But now there's people who's doing all types of stuff, and it's kind of being disregarded. And they're trying to just say this is just fake news or this isn't true because I say it's true.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I see. So I feel like there's some cleansing going on right now, where
cleansing. Oh,
yeah,
what?
where you got. I mean, I feel like well, okay. I think it started back with Obama being in office. Period. Like you
Hmm.
have to think deeper on what the country felt. So the minute he was in office, obviously you want to get him out, and then that's when the Republicans took over, and then they start rebelling, and they're trying to take over the House, to take over the Senate, yada yada yada, and that's that whole effort of just taking over the laws and the regulations. That's how it started, and then all of a sudden, once Trump got into office, and then obviously that was an effect of we need to get our own back in, and then Trump's style is just like fuck it. It's just like this is what it is. This I think that the Obama wasn't from here. I think that this judge, this Mexican judge, is racist, and he's just saying all this off the wall stuff that it's just trickling down to all these congressmen now and all these
Hmm.
politicians now, and so it's getting to the point that it's like I feel like the media is just like, oh word, okay, and then now people are digging even more. There's a cleanse going on because the worst is coming out of people that you have to get these motherfuckers out of here. So it's just so. For instance, I mean, we can go to the like Roy Moore. Roy Moore was just one of the worst politicians out there like ever. So Alabama, right? You can say that that was kind of like an obvious
Hmm.
right or wrong versus someone else like I don't know. Like, again, Ted Cruz winning Texas, and then he can bullshit his way in. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like
Bullshit is way.
there's yeah, but I feel like it's one of those deals where maybe I'm getting off a little bit, but when you have people saying things like, "Oh, I'm just going to dismiss the fact that that he stole money while he was with that real estate company back in the day. He can come in and run our treasury department, and then okay, yeah, I'm okay with that guy because he dated some younger age kid. Oh, they can still come in or whatever. I feel like what's going on is people aren't having these conversations with each other, and I say these people. I feel like they're Republican voters that aren't talking about these kind of things, these moralities that they're not talking to one another about. You have cousins that actually believe in racist, and they're like, "Oh, they're not a racist," and "Oh, I'm not. I don't believe in that fake news stuff about this." And then they're going home and they're not talking on the table at the table about what the fuck politics they believe in. And that kind of goes back to my whole point about the majority of Alabama voting for Roy Moore because they're dismissing the facts and nobody's talking at home. They're not talking about it with their friends. They're not talking about it. Like, no, like, I feel like black people, minorities actually talk about this shit.
Yeah, because
And
it's
they're actually
affecting
like,
us more.
it's affecting us more because I mean, let's be real. It's pretty obvious that a lot of this shit is directed at
Yeah.
us, and it's just like, yo, they're actually literally trying to take away our houses in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Versus, well, I mean, you can make the argument that the trailer parks, they do the same things over there, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys feel what I'm trying
No,
to say,
no,
but
I absolutely
it's
do. Because, and I'm looking at it, when you're going to go to the trailer park there, there's going to be casualties. So when you're at war,
mhm,
you send your troops out to war. And no matter what, you want to win. But you know there's going to be some casualties. It doesn't matter if there's casualties as long as you win. So if you take away
mhm,
these college deductions or raise how much it costs to go to college, only the people that's privileged can go. So it drops off a lot of minorities and it drops off a lot of
mhm,
whites that are in that lower class in that way too. Those are the casualties that they will accept, but they will keep the high
mhm,
end. So they're just casualties. That's why it's a national emergency for opioids because it's not small casualties. It's going across the board and it's affecting so many white families that they said it has to be an emergency. So reason why I'm saying, and I agree with you, it's focused on keeping the minorities back in their place, but they're gonna allow some casualties during the white race that says we're gonna have to allow some of that in order to cleanse what we need to get cleansed.
I took the question of morality differently. I took it as just a general lower of standards, just a general, it's kind of like the class clown got into Harvard. Like, wait, that motherfucker got in? He got into med school?
Right.
He got into medical school? Like, wow, okay, maybe I can do it too. So it's more like at least this politician doesn't rape. At least this politician only has one case of ethics reviews.
The
and,
standards is low.
It's almost, it's like only because just, and I think Obama was making a speech and he was saying, at the end of the day, politicians are a reflection of the people. And if you have low participation, basically the people who are winning the races are organizations. For example, during last year's election, the pharmaceutical professional group, they're spending a lot of money to make sure people don't, to change the conversation about high drug prices. And when you think locally or whatever, it's like, of course you're going to get trash politicians when they're pushed from lobbying groups, trade organizations, and things like that. So I just look at it as, at the end of the day, of course the politicians are going to be trash, considering there's no demand for anything better.
Becomes acceptable.
So it's kind of like, it's the only analogy I can think of is like a store. Like politics in general are like shopping at, we'll just say, Walmart. We all know how Walmart is, especially in the hood. Or I won't even say the hood. I'll just say there's only like two cashiers open. Takes 20 minutes to go out. And it's like, damn.
I hate that.
But it's kind of like, usually you can vote and say, I'm going to do Amazon. I'm going to do this. And that forces Walmart to change if they want to keep customers. But if Walmart only has to care about 3 customers, then it's like, well, they'll cater to them. Hey, here goes a big donor. Here goes, hey, I'm going to donate. Do this. This is my issue. I'll go to your parties. I'll donate to your campaign. And that's that. But otherwise, it's like, what reason does Walmart need to offer better service? What reason does Walmart need to do better? Metaphorically. So in terms of politics, local, city, state, federal, it's kind of the same thing until there's demand for better. Metaphorically speaking, the customer service doesn't and won't get better, in my opinion. So I look at it like that. Well, I'm like, okay, well, they hired a crackhead this time. Last time they had a meth head working at. Yeah, and I was like, that dude was biting people. I can't deal with that. I can deal with a crackhead.
Crackhead is just a little jittery. You're a little jittery.
Yeah, yeah. I can, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's literally like, I was thinking like, damn, let me just vote for a dude who doesn't assault people. Yeah. I'm to that point. Hey, I'm a dad. I got 8 kids. Vote for me.
Yep. And you kind of like,
has he assaulted anybody?
So Chaz, do you think so? All right. So the Alabama voting. Do you think Doug Jones is just voted in because he doesn't bite people?
Yeah. At that point, it's just it's the alternative. It's like, what? That's such a strange question. Like, why do people not vote for the pedophile?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can argue the same thing happened with Hillary and Trump. People they saw Hillary as that business robotic, same old. They hated her so much.
Okay, we gotta just stop, because for the record, I'm not gonna discount Hillary's corporate interest or corporate history, I should say. I don't want to misspeak.
My bad.
But the other dude is a billionaire.
Yeah.
That's not does one equal the other?
Yeah.
How does not one equal the other?
Right.
Other?
Yeah.
But there's no moral equivalent between the two. Because she's dealing with corporate people, she's worse than what this guy is. This guy has
That's what I'm saying.
no anything to do with taking care of people. He has a history of not taking care of people. He has a history of welching on whatever he's done. He has a history of going bankrupt and having bad businesses. He has a history of doing so much wrong. But yet, they're going to say she's just as equally bad as him. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't want to hear it no more. Was she perfect? Hell no. But it was obvious you should be taking someone that will be looking after the general interests of others than their own personal, because he's still trying to put in people. Did you see, and crazy segue,
We got to talk about the judges.
the judge
right?
that they was trying to, and he never tried any goddamn thing.
And the dude was like, "I don't want to see you suffer." I think that was the quote. The guy who was grilling him,
He was
like,
a Republican.
dude. Yeah, and it was like, "I don't want to see you." He basically was like, "I don't want to see you go out like that. I'm not gonna put your ass up here as a judge and you embarrass everybody." You know, it was to that point of almost sympathy. Like you're so not qualified. I'll be setting you up for astronomical failure if you got if they got confirmed.
That was the guy.
country-
That was
the
the guy
country
that
we
got
set
the video that had the video that came out, or because
Yeah, that went viral,
that went viral and it just became like an embarrassment.
and then he withdrew his name. You know,
But that's the people that's Trump. So I'm saying that's the standards. So now next time you go, at least the motherfucker tried the case.
yeah, I know.
At least he knows what
as opposed to
he-
none at all.
he knows what Esquire means.
And it was so embarrassing that he would nominate someone with no qualifications.
And you know what the article said? Like clearly they didn't research
No.
the candidates.
No. Like Betsy DeVos. She doesn't give a damn about education, but yet
Which
in
is so
charge.
scary. Considering the student loan debt is basically almost a financial thing now, more so than education.
But
policy.
she's going around saying, yeah, we just need to start doing more charter schools. So fuck public
How?
schools and all of those that goes to
saying.
public schools, minorities and poor white kids. I don't care about them. We need to make our schools just for the people who can afford to go. And it's getting, everything is moving toward if you can afford to, as opposed to the government takes care of all of the citizenry. They're going with, if you can afford it, then you can live here. If you can afford it, then pay the price to be here. If you can't pay the price to be here, you're just going to go down to the last levels, and then you'll fall out of the middle class into whatever class structure that they want to do. Almost like a caste structure, like India.
I mean, that's why I have a newly announced plan. I decided to start selling crack soon. I gotta start hustling.
I think that's not lucrative, so you got to back away from that. You
Okay,
have to get
I'm a-
codeine. You know,
right,
you
my
have
bad.
to do prescription drugs because you will not make money off crack. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's just
my
a
bad.
dumb move. Oh my god.
I just business plan change,
Yes.
business model change. So I'm gonna try to work my way up. Start donating to campaign so I can be a greasy dude. Just be in the pictures
You
and
could be a politician. Yeah.
if I can't beat them, join them. That's my plan. I'm a weasel my way in.
Somewhat ridiculous. Yeah. So with that said though, with that said, I'm looking at what we normally would go through our second half. And our second half, I really want to get into net neutrality because I think people really don't understand what's going to happen with that because I just don't think they will. So we'll be right back with Repo.
Cool.
Follow us on Bougie Black Bro on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to the podcast of Repool, Rethink Politics, on the BougieBlackBrother.com.